Hi, welcome to this class about how to take 5 concrete steps that lead you to the path of knowing and doing the creative work you were born for. I appreciate you taking this time to think a little bit about how to live life with more focus and more purpose and joy. I certainly wouldn't be taking the time to record this webinar if I didn't think I had some valuable things to share with you. It wasn't easy. I woke up this morning ready to record it before the kids woke up, but it took me quite a bit to set it up, and now they're all awake. And I've had a few interruptions. I've had to start all over, but hopefully this one goes okay, and we can keep going. The baby's taking a nap, so that should help. At least the lighting is better right now than it was this morning, so that's a plus. I'm going to pull up my slideshow here so that you can have some visuals to go with the presentation. If you're like me and you're a visual person, sometimes that helps. Whoops, that's not what I meant to do. Done. Present. Okay, so these are my 8 beautiful little children. Well, not all of them are very little anymore. As you can see from their happy faces, that they all have very different personalities and very different ways of being in this world. And I've learned a lot through raising each of them, a lot about living life with purpose and about different people and how to love different kinds of people and what they need. And I'm very grateful for the time I've had so far to raise them and to get to know them, to have them in my home. I'm also the author at wakingwarriors.com, a website I created for helping to enlist people in the fight for good. I hope through this webinar that you will come away at the end with 5 concrete steps you can take today that put you in the path to finding and doing the creative work you were born for, a greater understanding about your unique work and how to find it, also a roadmap for what to do once you're on that path, of course, a free gift. Our webinars have a free gift for helping you go through this process because I don't have a lot of time to share everything, in a short little 30-minute webinar. So this will give you a little more detail and more guidance as to how to proceed. And I hope you'll come away with a lot more excitement about living life with focused purpose. So for me, besides my family and God and my other friends and family, of course, my greatest loves are writing, teaching, and nature. I don't love speaking in front of cameras or being on the spotlight, so I hope you'll have patience with me. This is my first webinar, and I'm only doing it because I want so badly to share the things I'm going to share with you. It seems that this is a format that could reach more people, so I'm learning that sometimes I have to do scary, awkward things that put me in a place where I can be seen and judged if I want this message to be heard. So here we go. I'm going to start with this question that you may be asking, and I know I used to ask it also. It's, do I have unique creative work on this earth, even if I'm not the creative type? I would hear people talk about life mission or finding your passions, and I wondered, is that all true? Is that something we tell people to feed their pride and stroke their ego so they can listen to us? I mean, some of the very best people I know aren't famous or out there traveling the world sharing some apparently amazing message. Aren't we here to live good lives and not worry about life mission and being great? And I just felt like it was a selfish way to look at things, and I struggled with the concept a little. I wondered if it was doctrinally sound or even a good thing to be teaching. I noticed that some people seem to even neglect their families when they were out trying to save the world. And I didn't want to go down that path. But I knew there was something in that concept, and I wanted to know more about it. So I listened and I studied and I tried to figure out for myself if there was something God sent me to earth to do and to help with in addition to nurturing my own children. I just have to say that I do believe that motherhood and fatherhood are the most creative work on earth and the most fulfilling when done in alignment with true principles. Nothing compares to those. So my question was never, should I be doing something else? It was simply, do I have talents that I can use to contribute to humanity, or should I focus those on using them at home so I don't get distracted with the world and its blinding lights, right? And one day, I was watching my child perform in front of a group of people, and I looked around at my other children, and I thought, how each of them was so different. They each had such unique personalities and obviously born with unique gifts. If you have more than one child, I'm sure you'll totally see this, you know. I knew the world needed what they had to offer, and I wanted to help them help as many people as they could with the opportunities that they had been blessed with. It hit me suddenly that my Father in heaven wanted the same thing for me, and He wants the same thing for you. We each have unique gifts. We all think in different ways, and we all have unique experiences. This combination in each of us is really powerful. It is meant to bless the world. I realized that, of course, God wanted me to help as many of His children as I could with what He blessed me with, and that it was possible to stay grounded in the right priorities if I was centering myself and my home and family on Him. A family can support one another by learning and practicing truth at home, and then helping each other share that truth as each individual uses his or her unique talents, experiences, thought process, and gifts to share it with the world. So this is a visual of how I have come to see what this looks like. First, we center ourselves on God, and then we center our family as we practice living true principles with one another. As we work on that, we begin to learn about ourselves, our unique spin on things, and how we like to help others, and how we like to create goodness. Maybe it's through order or laughter or beauty or nourishing food or logical thinking and so on. And we begin creating that goodness in our own family. As we do so, our family grows in support and love for one another, and then we can support each other as we go out and share that goodness outside our home. Of course, this is the ideal. No one is perfect. Not all families are supportive. But I do know that as we practice these principles of putting God first and on our family and then taking that out into the world, we become better at it. We don't have to be perfect at any stage, but we improve as we practice each stage each day. And that's why I'm taking the time to do this webinar this morning. I know I have learned some powerful principles through my experiences and study that I have practiced and seen success with in my own family, even though we're not perfect at them. I know they work because they do work when we apply them. And I just don't feel good about keeping them to myself, as I see so many struggle with decisions about their time and purpose, who would not have to struggle if they understood the things I'm going to share. As I hear news or read articles or talk to people, I become more and more aware that there are so many people who feel lost about their part in this crazy world around them. They see the suffering, and many of them feel the suffering. And it seems so big, just so big, too big for one person. So we numb and we distract ourselves rather than try to fight it. It seems too overwhelming for little old me. I'm just a mom, or I'm just a kid, or a single adult, or whatever, you fill in the blank. So there's nothing I can do to change it. I'll just scroll Facebook instead, or play my game, or watch my show, or stay super busy with less important things so that I don't have to think about it or face it. But the fact is that there is a war between joy and emptiness, between purpose and apathy, between love and tearing others down, between the powers of light and the powers of darkness. Let me tell you how I came to learn that you and I have a part to play in this war, and if we don't take the time to find our part and do it, many will suffer for our negligence. But if we do seek our part and do it, many will be blessed even through our imperfect efforts. And then I will tell you how you can find that part and start living it. I first started to wake up to this idea when I was living in Kentucky, and I had just given birth to my first little girl. We had just moved there 3 months before she was born, so we didn't know a lot of people in the area. My husband was going to school and working full-time, going to school full-time and working a lot at Applebee's in the evenings. And so I was alone a lot. My mom had flown out for when the baby was born, and she had to fly back after a couple weeks. So I was there with this new baby, didn't know a lot of people. I had met some good people, but I didn't know them well enough to go tell them, I'm struggling. And I was struggling. I felt very alone, and motherhood was a lot different than I expected. I kind of had this picture that I would get to have this little baby. I could dress her up, and I could take her places and cuddle her, and things would be just kind of fun. I had kind of grown up with this idea that I would meet my Prince Charming and we would live happily ever after. And it wasn't looking like that for me. My baby cried a lot, and I had, a lot of those postpartum hormones. So I was really kind of emotional a lot. And I wasn't sleeping well, of course, with a new baby. And I was super unprepared for motherhood, the awakening out of myself it gave me. I grew up with incredible parents who um, really sacrificed so much for their children. They had grown up in really difficult circumstances in Mexico. My mom, especially, her mom died when she was very little. She grew up on her own most of the time, and she suffered a lot of hunger, a lot of abuse, and a lot of just neglect. And she did not want her children to suffer like she suffered. And so she did her best to make life as happy for us as she could. And I kind of grew up with this idea that, life was kind of about making me happy. And so um, here I was, I had this new baby, and life kind of was about her. And I was just not used to that. Everyone's kind of unprepared for motherhood, I think, but I was really low on the preparedness scale for motherhood. And I thought, life isn't happy. And what am I doing wrong? Or what did I make some bad choices that have put me in the spot? Did I pick the wrong Prince Charming? What is going on here? Why is life so difficult? And I prayed a lot to try to figure out what was going on. And, um, I remember just standing in front of this sink of dirty dishes and just feeling so stuck. Like, I'm gonna be washing dishes for the rest of my life. What did I get myself into? Like, this is not what I had pictured. And I just felt so heavy. And being woken up, I fell asleep on the floor next to my baby who was playing, and she would wake me up, and I just thought, I'm never gonna sleep again. Those feelings you get when you first have a baby, and just very, very dark. There were some bright moments when we were living in Kentucky, and there were some good times, but I struggled a lot. And so that's when I began to kind of like think, is there more to life? Um, what am I wake up, I kind of survive through the day, and then I watch my shows at night, and then I go to bed, and I do it again the next day. Maybe, after praying and studying, I kind of was inspired with this thought. Maybe I'm responsible for my own happiness. Maybe there's more, and maybe I just don't know it. So the next day, I wrapped my baby up, and we went to the library. I had decided to stop watching the shows I'd been watching at night, mostly because of her. I kind of realized like that life that has been portrayed in those shows is not happy, but they make it look like it is. So they are showing me this life of breaking up, starting new relationships, sleeping around, and partying all the time, and everything being funny. And I knew that's not the life I wanted my daughter to think was normal. So I stopped watching them, and I was left with this blank. What do I do with my time? And I realized I don't have a very good education. I had gone to school, I'd gone to college for 3 years, I'd gotten good grades, but I had done it to get the grades. I hadn't done it to really learn. And I wanted to teach my child what life was really about, but I needed to learn it for myself. So we went to the library, and I'm looking through the shelves, and I find the section about Charles Dickens, or from his books, and I thought, hey, that sounds familiar. Charles Dickens, he's a classic. He writes good books, I've heard. So I picked one of them, and I went home, and I started to read, and it was hard. The book was hard, and I didn't really understand what he was saying. The language was difficult, but I like challenges, and I kind of like, I'm going to be smart. I'm going to plug through this. So after a while, I started getting the hang of the language, and I started to realize, holy smokes, I mean, these are some really deep thoughts. I had never even realized that such depth of thought was out there. I had kind of been living my life in a very superficial level. And there's this way of living that's kind of centered on principles, not just on what I feel like I want to do right now, but these people, there was people that made good choices based on principles that ended up happy, and people that were making choices based on some um, lies that ended up unhappy. And I started to notice that in the people around me. And as I started reading more books, I saw that more and more. So here, let me get back to my slideshow. Uh-oh, I clicked out of it. So let me pull it back up. Oh, there it is. Okay, there I am. Okay, there's the library. Okay, so as I studied these things, I came to start to learn some of those principles. So here I am. This is almost 20 years later. I'm have this incredible little family, and I can truly say that I am happy now. Even though there's more of them, more of those little babies that cause so much stress at first. Wake up every morning with the excitement about living another life, another day, another chance to practice living those principles that I'm learning and finding so much joy in, and some more time to spend with these people to practice and learn and grow, and life is good. And so, not that it's always sparkles and roses and sunshine, but there's definitely some times when I still have some anxiety and some overwhelm. But really, I do wake up happy every morning and excited. So, back to you, and what do I have to share that can bless your life? I think that there's this space between, not caring enough to try something, just kind of like, "Yeah, I don't really care," and this knowledge that it works. And that space between those two extremes is faith. It's where you kind of ask yourself or decide, I'm going to take some steps to go towards that end. And you're not sure it will work, but you think it might. And when you take those steps, that is faith. And I hope that you're at that spot right now where you're willing to try something. I don't know if I would have, I wish someone would have shared these things with me when I was, starting out. But I'm not sure I was ready. I think maybe I didn't realize how much I needed them. So I hope you are. I hope you'll take these steps and realize how important they are. I wanted to share a systematic way that you could start working toward that abundant life filled with purpose and joy each day. It seems simple enough. And so I hope you will try it. I started saying earlier that I first started an awakening to the fact that there is an invisible war going on all around me when I started reading classics. I started seeing that the prevailing arguments of our day were the same ones that were happening all through time, and they stem from the same basic questions. Are there true principles, or is truth relative to each individual? Is what's true for me not necessarily what's true for you? If there is truth, where do we find it? What's its source? Is there God? Is life random? Who's to say what's right or wrong, good or bad, and who is to enforce it? So, like I said, I looked at the people around me and I began to see the fruits of their choices. I noticed there was a calm serenity in some people and an anxious longing in others. And I came to see that people living in alignment with the same life principles were the happy, calm ones, and those out of alignment with those same principles were the unhappy, anxious ones. I came to know for myself that there is a truth outside of ourselves, and the more we align our lives to it, the more joy, purpose, freedom, and love we have. If you were taught, like I was taught in school, and brought up in this doctrine of relativism, that truth is different for each person and that the highest value we can foster in this world is tolerance for one another's truth, then it may take a little more than my experience for you to believe that relativism in that sense is a lie. If you don't, know it for yourself, then study the people like I did and come to know and study your own life and find out that it is true. You'll come to the same conclusion because there is truth, there is right and good, and there is also false and wrong and evil. We are here on earth to experience both, to choose the good and then to create more of it. Like I said, we're all creative in the sense that as God's children, we can all create more good in our unique way. I have to stop here just to briefly say that if you're unsure about God and whether He is the source of all of this good and all this truth, I just encourage you to ask Him if He is there and if He cares about you. Sometimes people are afraid that if they ask, that they'll feel rejected if they don't feel an answer right away. Or sometimes, we go to Him with a rebellious attitude of, I don't really think you care, so I'm not going to get an answer. But if we ask with sincerity in our hearts from a loving Father in heaven, I know He'll answer. Some people wake or come out of a prayer like that with a lot of joy and peace in their hearts with an answer. Like some people like me have to learn some things before we're ready for that answer. I asked God if he was there when I was 16. I remember, having this prayer and saying, are you really there? And all this stuff I'm learning about your gospel, is it true? And I prayed and I got up and I was like, I don't really feel anything. It could be, it might not be, I'm not sure. And I went to bed. And a couple weeks later, I was driving in my car and I remember I was at this intersection. It was State Street and Center Street. There was a McDonald's on to the side, and I had just been to a cousin's baptism, and it was done in Spanish. I was in this mindset thinking about like, wow, the gospel is being really spread in all sorts of languages in different ways, and that's kind of neat, And all of a sudden, I was just struck with this incredible feeling of love. I knew God loved me. My mind was so clear and my heart was so overflowing. I'm not sure why he chose to answer me right then in the car, but I almost felt like I was floating, like I held onto my steering wheel and I was like, whoa, it's true. I wanted to get out of the car and tell people God loves you because I just felt such overwhelming love for all of those people. And I knew it wasn't coming from me. I knew that God had answered my prayer in a sudden way, unexpectedly, but that he was there and that he loved me and he loves you. So, if you'll ask and be patient and let him answer you in his way, you'll come to know that he is that source. I knew I could trust him. And I had that feeling. I knew that everything good had to come from him because there's nothing better than that. And so he is trustworthy and he is there, and we can trust him to be there for us. So here, back to my slideshow. Okay. So if you're at this webinar, you probably, already know the source of truth, and you probably already have a pretty good idea what side you're on. But maybe you are unsure about what that looks like for you. Maybe you understand that everyone has different talents and gifts, but maybe you're not sure what yours are or how you're supposed to use them. Maybe you feel so busy that you don't have time to do anything besides make it through the day. Maybe you just think that it's really okay to just live a life of comfort as long as you don't get into trouble or hurt anyone, and that you don't necessarily have to go out searching for more to do. Or you could probably worry that seeking out more will just leave you feeling frustrated and disappointed. But there is more. Life can be full of adventures, challenges, and tremendous joy in the journey. But a life like that involves a bit of soul searching and a lot of dedication. We get there by actively following our chosen leader and asking him what he would have us do each day. Since I have come to see through personal experience that the war around me and you is real, I call these personal commandments my marching orders. When Christ said, "If you love me, keep my commandments," he didn't just mean the 10 commandments or the general ones that he gave to us when he came in person and ministered to his people. He wants to walk with us personally on our journey. And that means we need to have a personal relationship with him by seeking him out and asking him what he would have us do in our unique circumstances with the choices and people in our lives each day. In the Bible, we read of one rich young ruler who started this process. He decided he liked Jesus and what he had to say, and he wanted to follow him. So he asked him what he needed to do to inherit eternal life. He wanted to know his personal marching orders. So Christ told him to keep the general commandments, and he said, I already do. So God gave him his personal marching orders. He said, sell all that you have and give to the poor and follow me. But that was too much. He would not do it. The sacrifice was too great. So he missed the incredible opportunity of being near the Savior during his short time on earth, of witnessing the miracles that the rest of us only get to read about, of hearing his words each day. For what? For stuff. He cared more about his stuff. Maybe it seems like Christ asked too much of the poor young man, but I am sure that Christ had great things in store for him if he was willing to come and follow. If a personal command comes from Christ and we know he's our Savior who loves us and who will make all things right in the end, wouldn't we be willing to do anything he asks of us, just like he did everything that was asked of him? But this story is a great segue to the process I want to share with you today. I have a free course on my site that takes you through this process that I'll be starting to share with you today. There's a little bit more to it on the site, but it gets you on the path that leads you to your creative work on earth. If you're a parent, it is so important that you go through this process if you want to teach your children how to go through it too. This webinar will start you with some steps that you can take today, but I hope you will start the free course when you're finished so that you can know where to go from here. The course has 6 lessons it takes you through, and each lesson has step-by-step instructions, or training exercises as I call them, about how to apply it. It also has assessments that you take after you have done the training exercise to help you know if you're ready to move on to the next step. You also get awarded achievements that represent what you are earning by doing that step, like a compass or a map or a destination marker. So you begin to see how important that step is to directing your course. I decided to use the online course format so people would have a chance to not just be spoon-fed the information, but to actually do it and practice it and write about it so that it becomes part of their lives. My hope is to help as many people as possible actually apply these principles, not just hear about them and then move on. So back to the rich young ruler and the steps you can make today. He was asked to sacrifice something to make room to follow the Savior. On my side, I call this the warrior sacrifice. I came to really understand this principle when I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease called ulcerative colitis over a year ago. I learned that I had to sacrifice not only certain foods, but also certain types of thoughts and things in my home and relationship patterns and ways I was using my time in order to heal. I had to go through a detox process. And then I had to add nourishing things into my life. That's the warrior sacrifice. I go into more detail about this in my blog, but suffice it to say that I did heal. I've had no ulcerative colitis symptoms since last March, even though I didn't take the medicine they said I needed. I learned deeply through this experience that sacrifice generates power in 2 ways. 1, it makes room for whatever nourishing things we need to add to our lives. All of us have a full plate. Doing the things that matter most will give our days a more direct path to our work, so we don't waste so much time wandering from idea to idea or decision to decision. It's those things that we really don't have time not to do, those important things. So the second way sacrifice generates power is by connecting us to God. That rich young ruler had the opportunity to walk with God daily if he was willing to give up the things that were standing in his way. We also have the same opportunity. When we are walking with God, he gives us his power to do whatever mission he gives us. As I go through these steps that I promised I'd give you, don't let them make you feel overwhelmed. Like I said, the free course on my site takes you through them slowly so you have time to apply them and understand each one on a deeper level. And conversely, you may also feel tempted to think, oh yeah, I got the basic concept, I got this. But I hope you will see that there's a lot of depth to each of these steps, and that you will go through, as you go through the site, you'll go deep into each one, so that this actually works for you as promised. So step 1 is to have a heart-to-heart talk with your Father in heaven. Start with a prayer of gratitude. Gratitude is very connecting. Maybe listen to an uplifting song or scripture, and then ask him, what lack I yet? You'll get some ideas about things you could give up to make room for what really matters. Then you need to be willing, unlike the rich young ruler, to give up whatever you feel prompted to sacrifice. Step 2 is to ask him what he would have you do today, now that you have chosen to give something up to follow him. What does he want you to fill that hole with? When I first started to wake up to the fact that I was responsible for my own happiness, I gave up my evening TV shows. I went to the library to pick up some classic books. When I got diagnosed with autoimmunity, I had certain foods to start with and added others that I had not been eating. You need to figure out what it is you need to do today. This gives you a vision as you go to ask for your personal marching orders. And that's step 3. To get the marching orders, first you ask God. This is the first question. What would you have me learn or practice today, and how? And take that seriously. It is imperative that you learn to nurture yourself with what you need in order to grow, so that you are the kind of person who can nurture others. This first question in step 3 is just as important as the second one in step 4. I am hammering on this mostly for those of you who are mothers who are watching this, because I think mothers are especially guilty of forgetting to nurture themselves. So if you are a mother, you need to understand that your own nurturing is part of your divine call as a mother, and that no one is going to do it better. You need to make it a priority along with the nurture you are giving to everyone else. Which takes us to step 4. Once you have written down what God would have you learn to practice that day, you ask Him, who would you have me help today and how? People might come into your mind that you could call or help in some way, or take notice of somehow that day. A lot of time those people will be in your own family. When you ask these questions, you probably won't hear a voice outlining exactly what your marching orders are for the day, but you will get some ideas. As you try them, you can evaluate at the end of the day how it went, and you can start getting better and better at discerning those orders and following through. And I have a system that helps you do that on the site as well as you go through the free training course. Which takes us to step 5. Once you have these thoughts and you've written them down about how you can learn and practice yourself and how you can help others, you put them in order of priority. Mothers, again, do not put your own nurturing at the bottom of the list. At least one item on your list needs to be at the top, and the other should be towards the top. Be careful about how you prioritize. I'm not saying you should neglect the nurturing of others so that you can focus on yourself, but I am saying that both are important. Notice that none of these steps, in none of them is there a time where you have to know your life work before you proceed. Because one thing I have seen over and over and over again as I have gone through this process, and I have seen others go through it too, is that their work comes to them as they go through these steps each day. They grow into the person they need to be, and thereby attract the work they are meant to do, one day at a time. You too, as you nurture yourself and others by following through with your marching orders, will start to discover talents and ways you enjoy helping others. You will start to see how you help people best. You will be guided step by step to more responsibility, more joy, and more purpose. And you will be better equipped to help others in that process too. This is how you grow into your dreams. I hope you'll take these steps to get there. I hope this was helpful. If you would like more detail about these steps, along with what to do next, as well as how to add other systematic habits in your life to help you grow into your best self, and more ideas about what this looks like, please come to wakingwarriors.com and sign up for my free gift to you, the basic training course. And feel free to send me feedback and ideas about how I can improve it, or if something isn't clear. I'm happy to answer any questions you have if you post them on the site, or if you ask them to the community of incredible people in the Waking Warriors discussion group on Facebook. I really hope this webinar was worth your time and that some of the things resonated with you enough to start adding them to your day. I hope you'll forgive the weakness of the messenger, but will like the message enough to try it. And please share this video with others who may benefit. I hope you feel my love for you through the screen, even if we haven't met. The fact that you're here tells me that we're kindred spirits. I'm glad our paths have crossed in this small way. You put my face back up and just say, thanks so much for listening. I hope that you learned some things that have been beneficial to you and that you're glad that you took this time. Have an awesome rest of your day. Hopefully we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.